What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA playoffs, Sunday, May 30th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 4-game slate today. So let's take a look at the point guard position. Now, if Chris Paul does play here tonight and he's not limited, I like Chris Paul from the Phoenix Suns playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they've been middle of the pack defending opposing point guards. Chris Paul has averaged 37.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. Now, he hasn't played all that well in the playoffs. He's dealing with a shoulder injury, a shoulder contusion, and he is questionable here today. But if he does play, I think he's worth taking a shot on just as a high risk, high reward play, because he's got some major upside and his price has come way down. His ownership is probably going to be down. So he's projected at 35.4 fantasy points here today if he is going to play, and that's 5.3 times value because he's only 6,700 FanDuel salary and 200 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 209.5 points scored in this game, so it's a low-scoring game. Not really the game that I'm looking to stack here, but if I can get 30 minutes out of Chris Paul here tonight, I think he's got a great chance to hit 35 fantasy points or more and get you over 5 times value on both sites. So if he plays, I like Chris Paul as a high risk, high reward play here versus the LA Lakers. Okay, another point guard that I like is Trae Young from the Atlanta Hawks playing the New York Knicks, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing point guards, but Trae Young has averaged 43.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. He scored 41, 37, and 53 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 35, and 35 minutes. He's projected at 43 fantasy points here tonight. That's just about 5 times value. He's 8,800 FanDuel salary, and he's the same price on DraftKings. So he scored 41, 37, 53, and 54 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Knicks. Now, Vegas thinks there's going to be 208.5 points scored in this game, so another low-scoring game. Not looking to stack this game either, but I like Trae Young here versus the New York Knicks. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. If Chris Paul is out, even if he's not out, I like Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall. They've been middle of the pack defending opposing shooting guards. Devin Booker has averaged 37.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. He scored 29, 33, and 51 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And the reason that I like this pick is because he played 41, 40, and 45 minutes. So he's playing monster minutes. We know he's got 50+ fantasy point upside. He's projected at 39.4 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 7,800 FanDuel salary, and he's 300 more on DraftKings. So I like Devin Booker, especially if Chris Paul is out. Well, if Chris Paul is out, Devin Booker's going to be a lock for me. But either way, I like Devin Booker here versus the LA Lakers. Okay, now I'm going to give you a value play. I like Terrence Mann from the LA Clippers playing the Dallas Mavericks, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing shooting guards. Terrence Mann scored 20 fantasy points last game, playing 19 minutes. He's projected at 19 fantasy points here tonight. We could just call it 20 fantasy points. That would be 5 times value or more on both sites. He's projected at he's 3,900 FanDuel salary, and he's 300 less on DraftKings. So I like that price on both sites. I think he makes for an interesting value play if he can get close to 20 minutes here. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 221 points scored in this game. So I like Terrence Mann here versus the Dallas Mavericks. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $100 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won, and then we'll send you $100 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Now guys, just as a quick note, we just released a free DFS contest on Draft Dashboard for MLB and NBA for DraftKings and FanDuel. There's over $500 available in the prize pool, and this is a totally free contest you can enter as a Draft Dashboard member. So make sure to click the link in the description of this video, give Draft Dashboard a try, and you can start playing in our free DFS contest and compete to win some money. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Evan Fournier from the Boston Celtics playing the Brooklyn Nets, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing small forwards. Evan Fournier has averaged 28.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He scored 28, 20, and 26 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 37, 26, and 38 minutes. He's projected at 30.7 fantasy points here tonight. Now, that may be a little bit high, but that is 5.6 times value. He's 5,500 FanDuel salary, and he's 500 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price. I think he makes a really good play on FanDuel, considering he would only need like 27 fantasy points or more to get you 5 times value or more on FanDuel. That's under his season average. He played 37 minutes last game, so he's got a great shot to hit value here tonight. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 228.5 points scored in this game. That's the highest scoring game on the slate, so it's a good game to stack. So I like Evan Fournier here versus the Brooklyn Nets. Okay, now I'm going to give you a value play. I like DeAndre Hunter from the Atlanta Hawks playing the New York Knicks, who have a good defense overall, been good versus opposing small forwards. But DeAndre Hunter has averaged 26.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He scored 22 and 24 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 35 and 31 minutes. He's projected at 24.4 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.3 times value. He's 4,600 FanDuel salary, and he's 300 less on DraftKings. So I think this is my favorite value play on both sites, especially on DraftKings. And DeAndre Hunter, he scored 22 and 24 fantasy points in his last 2 games versus the Knicks. So I like DeAndre Hunter here versus the New York Knicks. Okay, now for a stud pick. I like Kawhi Leonard from the LA Clippers playing the Dallas Mavericks, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing small forwards. Kawhi Leonard has averaged 44.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 29% usage rate. But he scored 56, 58, and 58 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 42, 40, and 40 minutes. So he's playing monster minutes. He's been super productive and consistent. He's projected at 54 fantasy points here tonight. Now, even on FanDuel, that's 5.2 times value because he's 10,300 FanDuel salary, and he's 1,100 less on DraftKings. I said this last time, that's just like a free square on DraftKings. It's a lock for me. Not sure why you wouldn't play him on DraftKings. I mean, playing over 40 minutes a game, over 50 fantasy points a game, that DraftKings price is just way too low. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 221 points scored in this game. And you know, now because I said that, he's probably going to go out there and put up a dud. But I'll take my chances on DraftKings. The price is just too low for Kawhi Leonard. So I like Kawhi Leonard here versus the Dallas Mavericks. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. This is another guy that I think is a little bit underpriced, although he's been kind of inconsistent. So I like Kristaps Porzingis from the Dallas Mavericks playing the LA Clippers, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing power forwards. Kristaps Porzingis has averaged 37.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. He scored 21, 40, and 22 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 33, 32, and 35 minutes. He's projected at 35 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 6,900 FanDuel salary, and he's 400 more on DraftKings. So he's been kind of hit or miss, either scoring, in the 20s or the 30s. He's got that 40 fantasy point game. So I'm expecting him to return to something close to his season average sometime soon. So I like the idea of taking a shot on Kristaps Porzingis, especially on FanDuel where he's under 7K. So I like Kristaps Porzingis here versus the LA Clippers. Okay, now I'm going to give you a value play. I like Maxi Kleber from the Dallas Mavericks playing the LA Clippers, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing power forwards. Maxi Kleber has averaged 18.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with an 11% usage rate. He scored 19, 22, and 23 fantasy points in the last 3 games. But the reason I like this pick is because he played 35, 34, and 36 minutes in the last 3 games. So his minutes are way up, and he's projected at 22.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 4,500 FanDuel salary, and he's 400 less on DraftKings. So I like that price on both sites, but that price on DraftKings looks really good. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 221 points scored in this game. So I like Maxi Kleber here versus the LA Clippers. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, moving on to the center position. I've been picking this guy, and he's been doing okay, but he hasn't broke out yet. But I still like him here tonight. I like Clint Capella from the Atlanta Hawks playing the New York Knicks, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing centers. Clint Capella has averaged 40 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. So he scored 35, 35, and 31 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 33, 36, and 34 minutes. So he's playing more minutes, but he hasn't been able to hit his season average of 40 fantasy points. I think that game is coming. I said it last time, he got close, 35 fantasy points, but I think that 40 plus fantasy point game is going to come, and I think it's going to come here today. He's projected at 41.8 fantasy points. That's 5.2 times value. He's 8,000 FanDuel salary, and he's 300 less on DraftKings. So I like Clint Capella here versus the New York Knicks. Okay, another center that I like, especially on DraftKings, is Tristan Thompson from the Boston Celtics playing the Brooklyn Nets, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing centers. Tristan Thompson has averaged 21.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 24 minutes per game with a 15% usage rate, but he scored 34, 29, and 27 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 30, 24, and 24 minutes. So I like that he played 30 minutes last game, scored 30 fantasy points. He's got some pretty big upside if he can play 30 minutes or more, and he's projected at 30 fantasy points here tonight. Even on FanDuel, that's 5.1 times value. He's 5,900 FanDuel salary, and he's 700 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. So I like Tristan Thompson here versus the Brooklyn Nets. Okay, another center I like is DeAndre Ayton from the Phoenix Suns playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing centers. DeAndre Ayton has averaged 33.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. But he scored 40, 35, and 42 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 41, 42, and 36 minutes. So he's playing monster minutes. He's projected at 38.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 7,700 FanDuel salary, and he's 1,000 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. Give me DeAndre Ayton on DraftKings, playing 40 minutes or more, scoring close to 40 fantasy points a game. I think that's a fantastic DraftKings play. So I like DeAndre Ayton here versus the LA Lakers. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.